The story of Max and saving the Earth. A long, long time ago, about 4.6 billion years, our beautiful Earth was born. Everything was in balance. The atmosphere, an invisible shield, made life possible. Without it, the Earth would be freezing, like an icy desert, -18 degrees Celsius. Too many greenhouse gases, like on Venus, and it would be like an oven, 450 degrees Celsius. "300,000 years ago, Max's ancestors lived. They discovered fire, hunted, and lived in harmony with nature. Back then, CO2 in the air was 280 ppm, parts per million, perfect for a stable climate. Then came the Industrial Revolution. People burned coal and oil, built factories and cities. CO2 levels rose to 420 ppm today, 50% more than in Max's ancestors' time. At school, Max learns about the CO2 crisis. His teacher shows a scary chart. CO2 has been rising fast since 1750 and could reach 490 ppm by 2051. This would warm Earth by 2 degrees Celsius, a point of no return for the planet, a tipping point. A tipping point is like a balance. Imagine our climate is a ball on the edge of a table. If you push the ball too far, it falls off the edge, and you can't bring it back. It means a small change can cause big, irreversible effects. Greenland ice sheet and West Antarctic ice sheet. At about 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, they start melting. The loss of sunlight reflection, albedo effect, amplifies and accelerates the process. Consequences: the sea level could rise by up to 7 meters, Greenland, and an additional 3 meters, West Antarctica, while the salt content in the water decreases. The salt content is the key to the Gulf Stream. How does the Gulf Stream work? The Gulf Stream is like a giant conveyor belt. Warm water from the tropics flows north, cools down there, and sinks because it becomes denser. The cold water flows back south. The key to this is the salt content in the water. Salt water is heavier and sinks more easily, which drives the current. When temperatures rise and the glacier in Greenland melt, large amounts of fresh water flow into the North Atlantic. This fresh water has a lower salt content and disrupts the sinking process. Consequence: the Gulf Stream could collapse globally. This would have dramatic effects. In Europe, there would be extremely cold winters. Africa would suffer from droughts and famines. Weather worldwide would become chaotic: heat waves, storms, and floods. At about 3 degrees Celsius, frozen organic material called permafrost begins to thaw. It releases huge amounts of methane, a greenhouse gas that greatly accelerates warming. Consequence: methane is 80 times stronger than CO2 and intensifies warming in a dangerous feedback loop. Nature is suffering. If we reach 450 ppm, which could happen as early as 2035 and by 2050 at the latest, we might cross tipping points. From then on, changes will be irreversible. But there is hope. If we act now, we can prevent the worst. Here's a plan. Plant trees. We could absorb 300 gigatons of CO2. Save energy, insulate your home, it saves money and CO2. Switch to solar and wind energy, the costs are steadily decreasing. With the help of millions of people like Max, the use of renewable energy, and reforesting all suitable areas, it was achieved. The annual CO2 emissions of 13 gigatons were reduced to zero. But that was just the beginning. Now we need to remove the 2,000 gigatons of CO2 already in the atmosphere. Technologies like direct air capture, DAC, extract CO2 from the air and store it safely. The current cost for this is between $250 and $1,300 per ton of CO2. With an investment of 10% of the GDP of OECD countries, it took 90 years to remove the 2,000 gigatons of CO2. It was a long journey, but every effort was worth it. The year 2150. The world has healed. The poles are covered with ice again, the mountains are snowy, and humanity lives in harmony with nature. The end. Stay tuned for some facts and figures.